What's up, guys? Welcome back to DCA. So what we're going to do in this video is take a look at a metric which I think is one of the primary metrics you're going to see start to turn around that will indicate that we're in a market recovery. And you're really not going to expect the market to really turn around, at least in any sort of sustainable way, until you see this metric turn over. And we're looking at the active addresses for Bitcoin. So let's just zoom in a bit here. If we zoom in to around 2020, you see that all through the bullish phase of the market. So we had this build up in 2020. And in fact, we can go back just a bit here. You could go back to 2019. You see that this was really picking up and continually picking up all the way through the peak of the bull market, which occurred here in the beginning of 2021. Now, we obviously know that in May, we had that huge capitulation event. A lot of people stopped participating in this network. So we went from a peak market participation, and we're looking at a 2-week moving average here, of around 1.2 million active users. We dropped all the way down to around 770,000. But from there into that rally that we saw into October and November, we really saw participation start to rally back up again. So going from around 780,000 all the way up to around 1 million. When we hit that number right at around 1 million active users, that's where we sort of turned back over and headed back into this bearish phase of the market that we're in now, going all the way from 69K all the way down to 30K. So where are we at right now then? Well, you see that, first of all, there's this big spike here. We have this big spike that you see where we got over 1 million active users. Unfortunately, when did this occur? Right here at the Luna UST, the capitulation event. So these were people that were getting out of the market. From that point, what have we seen? Well, we've headed to basically new lows in terms of active participation ever since November. We saw the spike, which was essentially people selling their asset. Let's change the color to something we can actually see here. So we saw the people selling their asset, activating their wallets that had just been sitting around, not really doing much. And a lot of these participants who came into the market here in the beginning of May, these were people selling the asset. Now it's all dropped back off again. So realistically, if we go back here to 2018, you can sort of see why this metric is so important then. Because what did we see in terms of the on-chain metrics back in 2018 that indicated to us that the market may be turning around? Well, we had this spike in volume, just like we saw with the Luna event here. We had this spike in volume followed by a massive capitulation event. And when I say volume, I mean volume of participants in the market. But from there, we sort of leveled off. And when the price started to really rally right here, you saw preceding that now we're talking at the beginning of 2019, preceding that, you saw a lot of new people coming into the market saying, hey, Bitcoin's all the way down here at, $3,500. So even if it goes to zero, this risk may be worth it. And in fact, it was, because you saw all these people coming into the market. And if you were watching the on-chain metrics, you could have seen this prior to the actual price run. So the people are coming into the market. We see this huge swelling of new participants. So we went from right at around 555,000 to right here at around 890,000 before the price then started to take off. So in orange, we have the active addresses. In pink, we have the price. So the price hadn't really done much, but you could see that people were coming in, acquiring the asset, coming in and acquiring the asset. And that's when the price took off. So we obviously then, had this huge retraction where we went from up here at around 13K, and then we went all the way down to around 7,300. And a lot of these participants dropped out of the market. But what was important here, and that was that the number of participants in the market increased from this low that we saw back here. And that's kind of similar to what we saw here in May, a huge number of people leaving the market. And we then had a rally followed by another drop off. And what we see though, is that the base level where we're sitting right now, right at around 950,000 active addresses, it's above where we were at these depths that we were at in June, May and June. So this is some bad news combined with some good news. The bad news is the price is showing a lot of weakness right now. The macro events going on in the market, they don't look great. But the good news is you have a lot of participants that, a lot of people that left back here in May and June and July. A lot of those people have returned to the market and are just sort of sitting around now. So you may have a lot of active traders. You may have a lot of people just dollar cost averaging into the market. So what I suspect is that this will continue down until something happens in the market where there's something positive that occurs, be it in the broader economy, be it in the crypto market, because right now a lot of the news we're hearing is, quite frankly, it's negative news. So when you start to see this forming a recovery, that will be an indication that people are acquiring. It won't necessarily mean that we're heading into a bull market immediately. When you saw this acquisition phase right here back in the beginning of 2019, it didn't indicate that we were going to new all-time highs immediately. In fact, from the time that the acquisition phase occurred right here, we're looking at March of 2019, you basically had a full 2 years before we really got into the bull market. So, ultimately we're looking at these metrics not for the short term. Metrics like this do not give you strong indications of any sort of sense that the bull run is starting in the short term, but it can help you identify where market sentiment may be turning a new leaf, getting out of this extremely bearish sentiment phase of the market that we're in. This is something I'm watching, guys, and I just wanted to talk about this one to sort of give you an indication of how to think about this metric, or at least how I'm thinking about it. There may be other ways to use it, but specifically, this is what I look for. I'm looking for accumulation in the market to be demonstrated by on-chain. So that will be sideways or upward price movement with an increasing number of active addresses. If you see a massive move to the downside and a spike in active addresses, that's capitulation. That's not what we want to see. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. Until next time, as usual, see you.